Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Symposium. My name is Elad Benjamin. I'm responsible for radiology informatics and AI informatics at Philips Healthcare. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how we deliver imaging AI at scale, some of the challenges that we face in doing so, and some of the opportunities that are before us, and some of the technologies that AWS provides us to help tackle these challenges. Before we start, a little bit about Philips and what we do in order to set the stage for imaging AI and where it's at. Philips is a healthcare informatics company, and our purpose is really to improve people's health and well-being through our innovation. We have a really amazing goal of just improving people's lives, and we've set the goal of improving the lives of 2.5 billion people annually by 2030. And the way we go about trying to achieve this goal is connecting healthcare providers, payers, and patients across the continuum to improve outcomes. We have at Philips what we call the quadruple aim. We want to improve the patient experience. We want to achieve better health outcomes. We want to improve the staff experience, and doing all of those while helping healthcare organizations lower the cost of care. And we have solutions across the continuum of care that help us reach the quadruple aim. Today, specifically, I'll be talking about one component in that continuum, which is imaging AI. And specifically, that is deep learning in the service of clinical care. How do we use machine learning and deep learning to analyze medical imaging data and identify relevant clinical findings that should be highlighted to radiologists or other imaging providers to provide them with the decision support tools that they need in order to, like we said earlier, reach the quadruple aim and improve outcomes. When we look at imaging AI, the field of imaging AI has been experiencing an explosion over the past few years. There are well over 150 companies developing imaging AI-based decision support tools. As of 2020, which is a few months ago, we have over 60 approved products and algorithms ranging from mammography, neurology, orthopedics, cancer, and a number of different areas within healthcare. And also, always a telling sign is how much investment goes into a particular market. And we've seen over $3 billion invested in the market of imaging AI, and that number is expected to grow, and we are expecting to see an even further growth of both the number of providers that are providing and developing decision support tools, as well as the number of solutions that are out there in the market. However, with all of that being said, there are really three main business models that are being pursued across this industry. And it helps to understand them in order to understand later where the opportunities and the challenges are. One business model is triage. Triage, as the name suggests, how can we identify time-critical findings, alert physicians in time so that the proper intervention can be created in a timely manner? For example, a pneumothorax, which is a tear in the lung, or a bleed in your brain, or stroke, are critical things where time matters, and if identified early, can really save a patient's life. So that is one area of decision support where data, as it's being generated by scanners such as CTs and MRIs, X-rays, etc., it's being analyzed in a real-time basis, and if relevant findings are found, alerts are sent so that patients can be triaged better than they are before. A second model is population health. As we all know, prevention is much easier and cheaper and many times more effective than treatment once an actual disease has broken through. And so more and more healthcare organizations around the world are realizing that if they can understand the risk stratification of the patient population that they're dealing with, perhaps they can put in place preventative care programs that can really help either remove the risk or postpone the risk or reduce the severity of further disease down the road. The third business model is decision support tools. And what that means is providing real-time analysis of imaging data so that when a physician, a radiologist, for example, is looking at imaging data, they can be fed real-time analysis of whether or not critical findings or important findings have been found for that study, and action needs to be taken. When we look at the process of how these products actually reach the market, we look at this, what I call the AI wheel. And the AI wheel is relatively consistent across industries. I'll walk through it a little bit, and as I walk through it, I'll also highlight where the challenges are and why healthcare is proving to be a slightly more difficult market than some of the other imaging-related deep learning markets. So we start off by gathering data. And data gathering, as everyone knows in the AI business, is the core. You need enough data, you need enough diversity of data in order to really be able to create relatively robust, scalable models at the end of your process. However, in healthcare, as we can all imagine, data gathering is still a bit of a challenge, whether it's privacy laws in different countries, whether it's geographical boundaries, whether it's the diversity of data. So gathering data on males, females, different age groups, different disease stages, different types of imaging modalities and scanners. The matrix of the diversity of data that's available makes it very hard to gather enough data that really, really covers everything you need. So that is one challenge. The second component is managing that data and labeling it. So once the data exists, you need qualified healthcare professionals that can actually label it. And unlike some data labeling industries where it might be easier to label data such as streets or cars or other areas of imaging analysis, healthcare data requires actual radiologists in order to understand whether or not there's a lesion, a fracture, a bleed, or growth, or any other healthcare finding. And so it's a very expensive process because of the type of people that are required. And it's a lengthy process. And it needs to happen on top of the work that these physicians are already doing, which is hard because they are extremely busy and under pressure to actually read patient cases. Once the labeling is done, the development, testing of the model or the AI application is done. And for that, there are relatively standard tools today in the industry on how to do that. We deploy something into the market. In the healthcare world, that's also a challenge because it requires regulatory clearance. But then we reach the final stage, which are the final two stages, which are linked. And they are really the crux of some of the issues we're facing in the imaging AI industry is feedback and monitoring. How do we know how an AI algorithm or application is actually behaving in the field? Unlike other industries in the healthcare world, it's not trivial at all to understand whether or not a physician agreed or disagreed with a particular recommendation. And in order to actually improve the model for future use, it's not enough to know whether there was agreement or disagreement. It's also required to actually get the data back, which circles us back to gathering data, which in and of itself is a difficult problem in healthcare. And then lastly, monitoring. It's not enough just to get the data back and to understand agreement and disagreement. You need to understand how your AI tools are behaving in the real world. Are there certain subpopulations where they are less effective? Are they slowly reducing in their quality because of a new scanner or a different patient population that has suddenly come into the fold? And so without solving some of these challenges, it is really, really difficult to scale AI in the healthcare domain. And what we've been doing at Philips is slowly tackling each one of these bottlenecks in order to be able to provide a holistic AI experience that not only solves the problems of data gathering, but also helps both Philips and our third-party AI companies that we work with to create easier and faster and less intrusive labeling processes, and to provide real-time feedback and monitoring services so that they can understand how to improve their product. So how can we help meet some of the challenges that I spoke about earlier? One tool, for example, is real-time feedback and monitoring using structured reporting tools. We use capabilities such as NLP and language comprehension to take textual reports, structure them, feed them back to the development environment in order to enhance the learning, and then retrain models and redeploy them back into the field in order to achieve better results. That is obviously an iterative process that happens time and time again from multiple diverse locations, diverse data sets, and that helps us, for example, tackle some of the challenges that I spoke about. When we look at AWS and some of the tools that we can use in order to help solve some of these bottlenecks from a technology perspective, AWS announced Health Lake, which helps manage the data that is generated and constantly flows into the system. The SageMaker stack, including ground truth and some of the other capabilities within the SageMaker Studio, help us with labeling and obviously some of the development and testing of machine learning and deep learning models and neural networks. In addition, we are now working with AWS to deploy not only through cloud, but also through hybrid models where sometimes on-premise capabilities are needed. And Comprehend allows us, as I said before, to understand text, structure it in order to feed it back into the relevant developing applications so that we can get better products in the end. So to summarize, the AI field is experiencing an amazing resurgence of applications and tools and products and companies. At Philips, we are at the core of creating an ecosystem, both with our own capabilities and with our AI partners, in order to really help deliver on the quadruple aim that I spoke about before. And using many of the tools that AWS provides helps us to tackle and solve the AI challenges that exist today in order to really drive better healthcare outcomes. Thank you very much.